His rebirth begins with the end of a world. This scene depicts the violent rebirth of Jonas Cardin, establishing the story's core themes of displacement and survival in the epic, desolate atmosphere of the exposition. Please listen to the Chapter 1, The Crimson Rebirth, From a Desperate End to an Alien Beginning. The air in the Arizona cave was a dead thing, thick with the dust of forgotten ages and a cold that had nothing to do with the weather. It seeped through the worn fabric of his uniform, a chill that settled deep in the bone. Jonas Cardin's back was pressed hard against a wall of rock, its surface carved with geometric patterns that felt wrong, an offense to the natural world. His chest heaved, each breath a ragged tear in the profound silence. He was not alone. Before him, a figure coalesced from the shadows, a form that was more a shimmer in the air than a solid being. It glided forward, silent and inevitable, its presence sucking the warmth from the space, cornering him like a wounded animal. Jonas's face was a mask of haunted desperation, the deep lines etched around his eyes telling tales of loss he could never speak. His gaze darted away from the apparition, finding the only point of light in the oppressive dark, an alcove where a medallion pulsed with a soft, steady, otherworldly blue glow. It illuminated the dust motes dancing around it, tiny galaxies in a universe of shadow. It was a last desperate gamble, born from a soul that had nothing left to lose. With a choked cry, Jonas lunged. His body, weary from war and grief, moved with a final surge of will. His hand, fingers outstretched and stained with grime, reached for the light. The moment his skin touched the cool, smooth metal of the artifact, the world ended. Instantly, the blue light didn't just brighten, it consumed everything. It exploded into a silent, blinding whiteness that annihilated sight and sound. The oppressive quiet of the cave was replaced by an even more terrifying silence, the absolute absence of everything. Jonas was caught in a chaotic vortex of pure energy. Fleeting, distorted images of his shattered past flashed and died. A homestead engulfed in flames, the ghost of a loving smile, the choking haze of a battlefield. A scream was torn from his lungs, but it made no sound, lost in the silent, violent storm that was unmaking him. Then only blackness and silence. Ages seemed to pass. Slowly, a pale, weak light began to filter through his eyelids. The first sound to return was not of earth. It was a low, dry whisper, the sound of wind moving across a vast, empty expanse. His eye snapped open. He took a sharp, rasping breath, the first true sound he had made in this new reality. He pushed himself up, first to his hands and knees, then to his feet. The movement felt impossibly light, as if his own bones were hollow. His tattered Confederate grays were gone, replaced by little more than a primitive leather loincloth and simple bindings on his forearms. He stood, a solitary figure dwarfed by an endless sea of crimson sand stretching to every horizon, under the soft, unfamiliar glow of a weak and distant sun. He was a stranger on a new world, his earthly sorrows not gone, but buried under the profound, crushing weight of a new and hostile existence. Thank you for watching this program. If you find it interesting, don't forget to subscribe so that I have the motivation to continue telling the next parts. They consider him a prisoner until he flew up. This chapter captures the visceral conflict of Jonas Cardin's defiance against the brutal Thark society. It marks his transformation from a mere captive to a respected anomaly, establishing the core struggle of a hero who rejects heroism in a world that demands it. Please listen to the Chapter 2, The Leap of Defiance, a captive's rebirth on a hostile world. The disorientation of a new world shattered. Before Jonas Carden, monoliths of green flesh and sharpened bone blotted out the weak sun. These were the Tharks, a towering, four-armed tribe whose very existence was a testament to brutality. Rough bindings cut into his wrists, a crude reminder of his new status. Captive, specimen, a strange and fragile thing in a land of titans. He was herded into a circle of them, the air thick with red dust and the low, guttural rumble of their language. At their center sat Tarsus Khan, the Jedak, a leader whose authority was etched into the harsh lines of his face and the weary honor that flickered deep within his eyes. His gaze fell upon Jonas, heavy and sharp, a silent dissection. Here was a world governed by strength, where compassion was a fatal flaw. And here was Jonas, a man who had renounced fighting, who sought only oblivion, now forced to fight for every breath. A memory of earthly battles, of loss too deep to name, hardened his expression. The haunted look in his eyes, caked with the grime of this alien desert, shifted. It was no longer weary, it was defiant. The faint, cool blue light of the Thurn medallion at his neck seemed to pulse in time with the stubborn beat of his heart. A guard prodded him forward with the butt of a spear. Jonas stumbled, his worn boots scraping the ochre rock. It was a simple indignity, but it was the spark. He caught himself, his body tense. For a heartbeat, the cynicism in his eyes was replaced by a sharp, feral calculation. He looked at the ground, then at the ring of colossal figures surrounding him. He would not be broken here. He would not be their plaything. With a suddenness that defied his exhausted appearance, he crouched. The muscles in his legs, honed by years of war on a world with heavier gravity, coiled like powerful springs. Then he exploded upwards. Red soil erupted from beneath his feet as he launched himself into the thin Martian air. All sound seemed to vanish, the guttural speech, the scrape of metal, the whisper of the wind, replaced by a profound, rushing silence. For a moment, he was a dark silhouette against the pale sun, an impossible arc of motion. He soared over the heads of his captors, a 30-foot leap that was less a jump and more a violation. A shock wave of red dust billowed outwards, momentarily obscuring him. The silence of his ascent was now replaced by the stunned silence of the entire tribe. As the dust settled, it revealed Jonas standing alone. He was panting, his chest heaving, but his posture was no longer that of a victim. It was one of hard-won dominance. Every eye was on him, no longer with contempt, but with a new, raw mixture of fear and awe. Tarsus Khan rose slowly, his harsh expression broken by profound shock and a flicker of grudging respect. This creature was not weak. It was an anomaly. A new name was spoken, a sound like grinding rocks that sealed his new fate. Dotar Sojat. Property, yes, but something more. A warrior who rejected war, a hero who rejected heroism, had just made his first defiant stand on Barsoom. Thank you for watching this program. If you find it interesting, don't forget to subscribe so that I have the motivation to continue telling the next parts. A fateful dance changing the fate of an entire world. This narrative captures the critical turning point in the rising action, where Jonas Carden sheds his cynical detachment in a single act of heroism, embracing a destiny he tried to escape and plunging into the heart of Barsoom's war. Please listen to the Chapter 3, A Warrior's Choice. For Jonas Carden, survival had become a monotonous, static conflict. A captive among the towering, four-armed Tharks, he stood under the twin sons of Barsoom, his face a mask of weary indifference caked in the planet's crimson dust. The days bled into one another, each defined by the harsh, brutal code of his captors. That fragile peace shattered when the sky tore open. A magnificent skyship, elegant and radiant, soared across the thin air, a vessel from the city of Helium. Close behind, a fleet of menacing, aggressive Zodongan warcraft gave chase, spitting blasts of raw energy that scarred the heavens. The Tharks watched with guttural shouts, a brutal spectacle for their afternoon. Jonas simply observed, the cynical survivor within him unmoved by a conflict that was not his. Then he saw her. Amidst the chaos of grappling hooks and boarding carties, soldiers from Zodanga swarmed the Helium deck. They seized a woman of fierce, regal beauty, Dea Theron, the regent of Helium. As she struggled, her defiance a bright flame against the brutal backdrop of war, something inside Jonas shifted. The carefully constructed wall around his heart, built from the grief of a lost world, developed a crack. A flicker of honor he thought long dead, buried in an Arizona grave, ignited in his weary eyes. The roar of battle seemed to fade into a distant hum. The world narrowed to the sight of her being dragged away, a prize in a savage game. The choice was not made with thought, but with instinct. In the space of a single heartbeat, the haunted veteran vanished, replaced by a warrior. All sound muffled, save for the sharp intake of his own breath and the faint, otherworldly thrum of the blue medallion at his neck. His muscles coiled, a cascade of power rippling through his lean frame. With a force that seemed to defy the very nature of this world, he launched himself from the ground. Red dust and sand exploded from his feet as he soared into the sky, a human missile aimed at the heart of the conflict. He was a blur of motion against the vast crimson canvas, no longer a captive, no longer a survivor, but a rescuer. He landed on the deck of the Zodongan ship with the force of a small meteor, scattering the armored soldiers. Before they could comprehend the nature of in her eyes, he saw not just gratitude, but the crushing weight of her world's fate. She quickly explained the stakes of Zodonga's leader, Saber Than, a new, devastating weapon, and a forced marriage that would seal Helium's doom, all orchestrated by the godlike Therns. In that moment, Jonas Carden's impulsive act of heroism gained a terrible, profound purpose. He was no longer fighting his past. He was fighting for a future, for a people, and for a woman who was quickly becoming the new definition of home. Thank you for watching this program. If you find it interesting, don't forget to subscribe so that I have the motivation to continue telling the next parts.